Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of our music podcast. When you think about the 1980s, perhaps you think about Rubik's Cubes or arcade games. I know for me, I think about MTV and the impact that music videos had on my life. And I know that anyone who's a music fan watching this podcast who grew up in the 80s can appreciate the impact that music videos had on your life as well. We're joined today by Laurie Tucker. Laurie had the special opportunity to appear in many music videos during the 1980s. Her credits include music videos by Van Halen, Jermaine Jackson, Roger Waters from Pink Floyd, LA Guns, and Rick James. She's also worked as a fashion model and has appeared in many TV commercials, fashion magazines, and print ads. We're really lucky to have her here today, and I look forward to having a discussion about music videos in the 1980s. Hey, Laurie, welcome.
Hi, Darren. How are you? Good to be here.
It's great having you. Hey, Shane.
Hey, everyone. How you guys doing?
Hey, Shane. Good.
Yeah,
hello, Boston.
Hello from Boston. Looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So, Laurie, tell us how you got into modeling. I'm assuming that was a conduit into the world of music videos. How did your modeling career begin?
Well, it actually started when I was really young. I started doing some little bit of modeling. I'd met some photographers when I was, 16, 15 and a half, and did some testing with them. And just through them and their friends and that whole community, they started to get work, and then they started to ask me to do the jobs with them. And then I got an agency when I was, probably around 16 and a half, I think.
Okay.
And so when I worked in LA here and mostly got my book together, and then when I, right before I turned 18, agency from Paris came in and into town and then had me come. So I spent a year in Paris there and, got to do some really amazing traveling and work, and they have beautiful magazines and beautiful photos. And you kind of, models go there, go to Europe and do the tour to like Milan and Paris and Munich, get their book together, and hopefully come back to the U.S. and make money, because not a lot of money there. Great photos, but and I think really the best part of that job was, especially for a young person, was the traveling, because not only would you not pick the places that they would pick to go, like I got to go to the Maldives, and then I'd be in the French Alps, and then I'd be in Baden-Baden, Germany, in the Black Forest, but also, something a young person couldn't afford. So that was really a great thing. So that once I came back home and then I started to work, I went back to Europe about a year and a half later, went to Munich, Milan, Zurich, and Hamburg, and then came back. And that was early 80s when I got back. And that's when MTV just busted wide open.
Right.
Kind of started when I was in Europe. And I remember we were so fascinated watching Boy George. The Culture Club was like, what is this?
That's
so
awesome.
It was pretty cool. So yeah.
And needless to say, I know we've discussed this previously, that you were a huge music fan.
Yeah. I was telling you, I have 6 brothers, a couple of sisters, and my parents are both music lovers. Everything from jazz, R&B, hardcore rock. We call it acid rock back then in the 70s.
I remember that.
Acid rock. That was Ozzy Osbourne was considered acid rock. And I just always been a huge rock fan and a metal fan, although I love every genre, listen to everything. But yeah, my brother John was a huge influence on me. He was about 5 years older, and he introduced me to Blue Oyster Cult and Deep Purple and Jethro Tull, and I'd already been listening to Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and everything, but he always, he had great taste, and we shared a lot of that. And I started to go to concerts early on. I think my first one I was 12.
Wow. Was your appearance in the Hot for Teacher video, was that your first time being on set or being involved with a music video?
That was, I think that was my first music video. I think it was. I was trying to remember, and I actually kept some of my things in my pay stubs and records, and I think that was the first one. Yeah, so that was my introduction.
And anybody watching this video will appreciate the fact that in 1984, Van Halen was the rock group. I mean, there was no bigger band in the world. They were just enormous. And all of their videos from the 1984 album are iconic, from Jump and Panama. But there's something really special about Hot for Teacher in terms of the production, the plot, the setting, the scenery. And you were there, you were part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I have to say, and because, I've done a lot of music videos, it was really an amazing set to work on, and to watch come together. And it seemed so daunting to me, even watching it at the time, all the different locations and setups and things like that, and the cast. But man, they pulled it together, and it's just iconic now, But the cool thing is when I was in Paris in 1979, I was there from 79 to 80. I had a $12 cassette player, and I had 2 cassettes. Deep Purple's Burn, and I had Van Halen, Running with the Devil, And I literally played them loop 24/7 in my little apartment in Paris, and I burnt them out until I could listen to them no more. So it was really, really fun when I went on that interview, and my agency said, you have an interview for Van Halen, for a new music video. And I was like, that's awesome.
And that was actually going to be my first question for you. How did you end up doing this video, and this video being your first video? Was it through an agency? Was it someone seeing you in some other sort of print material or anything else where you were discovered? So like a little bit of history in terms of how you ended up.
Yeah, I did have a modeling and commercial agent here in LA, and the commercial agent would send me on either music videos, commercials, anything that had to do with video or film. And they just sent me on the interview one day, and I remember they had for the interview, it was a casting person I'd been to before, and they had a little bit of a setup, which I thought was interesting. Usually it's just like a white screen behind you, and maybe they'll have a couple little props, but this actually had a little bit of a desk and classroom feel. They had a chalkboard. Wow. They had a ruler. So I had to rely a lot on improv, which I always love to do. But so they said, okay, you're a teacher, and you're in a classroom, and you're teaching the class, and the group's in here. Just pretend David and Eddie and everybody's in here, and the young kids. So I just took my ruler, grabbed the ruler, and I walked back and forth up and down the little aisles. And then I just said, okay, class, I have a math question for you. And I went like this, and I went, David, what does 36, 24, 36 add up to?
That's hilarious.
And then she was like, that was that. And then, I just had to do the typical slate and everything. And then I actually booked it, but we had to still come in, and we had to meet the band. Okay. Which I didn't know. So we showed up, and it was supposed to be like kind of a callback. And I expected like the clients of some sort to be there, or the director or something. And so came in, met the director, and then they said, okay, come on into this room and just go say hi to the guys. So they opened the door, and it was a little teeny room. I was like, one of them was in the middle of a walk-in closet, and there were 2 couches on either side. And I walked in, and we had like David and Eddie here, and Alex and, and over there, and we had to be I was in a 2-piece bathing suit, which was, so,
goes with the territory.
I did a lot of beer commercials too. I was used to it, but such close proximity. So I walked in, and then I just was very professional, and I just shook everybody's hand. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. And then they said, oh, good to meet you too, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And then like, all right. And I said, well, that wasn't too painful. And then David goes, was for us.
That's funny.
Remember that. And I walked out, and so that was how I got the job. Was the process.
And what do you remember in terms of the actual day of the shoot? And one other question, do you remember the date? Was that in September of 1984?
I actually, for 36 years, don't ask me how, I saved my call sheet. Wow. So this tells I have to get my glasses on because I'm old. Kramer Goodwin was the producer. September 6th was the shoot date. Okay. And 8:30 a.m. shoot. Internal, we had the hot rod scene, the school bus scene, Waldo's house, some other stuff. What time Eddie and David and Alec and everybody had to be in Mike in makeup at 7:30 a.m. I think that's really early for a rock band.
I think it's very early for a rock band, indeed.
Yeah. So, they probably just never slept and just came right to the studio. So I'm down here, teacher Wanda, and then the cafeteria teacher was there. But so I think that was first day of shoot, it says right there. And I shot, I believe I shot two of the days. possibly 3. I can't remember, but I have 2 call sheets, which means I got that one, I had the next one, and another one might be floating around somewhere, but I shot at least 2 days.
Where was the high school?
I think it's Burbank, John Marshall High School, and I think they've used that. I actually shot there before doing a jeans commercial. It's pretty cool school, and so we shot the exterior with the David Lee Roth and the hot rod going, and then we shot my scene. We had that set up with the jail cell with all the guys and the young Van Halens in there. That was kind of interesting too, because I was on like 4-inch stilettos with like fishnets and bustier and all that stuff, and a whip, and they had my hair like gargantuan to make me look like a evil detention teacher.
Right.
So our banter was pretty fun. Doing that.
That's so funny. Yeah. Did you have any idea when they were filming this what an iconic video it would turn out to be? I mean, it's such a staple when you think of 80s culture and MTV. Did you have any idea what you were involved with?
Didn't at all. And it was really amazing. Even years later, I would work with directors for maybe even something on TV or other commercials or music videos or whatnot, or even for film that I've just met, and they would say, when they find that out, they'd go, oh my God, that was such an inspiration to me, even for my TV work or my this work or my that work. So I thought that was pretty cool that, they found that to be an inspiration to them in other fields as opposed to just music videos. Yeah.
When it comes to all the videos you've been in, each one of them is worthy of its own podcast, I might mention. But in terms of chronological order, after that, it looks like you did the Jermaine Jackson video, I Think It's Love, in 1986.
Yes, I was a trombone player.
Excellent.
With really 80s hair. Yeah, that was fun. It was interesting. So we were an all-girl band. None of us actually played instruments. So I forgot when you're blowing in front of a fake audience that they have like the spittoon. They're like, really, don't blow in that. It's horrible. So that was a fun, R&B thing. And his sister we shot at A&M Records.
Okay.
And his sister was doing some recording right down the way. So we got to go around and go say hi to her. He took us over there. So that was kind of fun.
Excellent. And your appearance in Sunset Strip by Roger Waters is very prominent. Yeah. You star in that video. Yeah,
that was a geek out moment for me because I just love Pink Floyd and Roger. When I saw them in their Animals tour, I think I was 17 or something, and we'd spent the night in the parking lot of this big, huge arena. And when they opened the gates, we drove in and parked and then booked it all the way, into the stadium and then across the field. And I landed right literally in front of Roger Waters, like just literally in front of me. And that was like seeing, God. So to be able to do that, years later was really fun. So they're iconic, of course. So that was kind of a bucket list thing too. So.
Was there a common director involved with these videos, or did your agency just keep bringing you back?
No, they would just get interviews and I would go. Sometimes, because I did a lot of commercials, the casting people knew me well. So sometimes they would just recommend me for things and then just call the agency and say, we want to see Laurie for this. And I wouldn't have, so it'd be kind of a direct thing where with Van Halen, with Hot for Teacher, David Lee Roth's people actually called my agency for me to do his solo California Girls thing. He wanted me in that, but I was booked on a Pantene hair commercial and it was paid a lot of money and I was already booked, so I couldn't do it. It would have been fun in hindsight, but.
Yeah, that's another iconic 80s video, especially from the David Lee Roth collection.
Yeah, exactly. So Roger Waters was fun. I had a monkey on my shoulder and I was walking a standard poodle and we had the big Great Dane, following us. And the Great Dane was kind of our protector, actually, it seems. But I did get peed on a lot by the monkey. They kept, to train it, they kept feeding it grapes. And so
Oh my gosh.
Little cleanup with some, yeah.
How long did a typical video shoot like that take? Was that usually scheduled over the course of a day, 2 days?
Van Halen, like I said, was multiple days. I think the LA Guns was also a couple of days, but Jermaine Jackson and that was just a 1-day shoot. I shot with Diana Ross and Julio Iglesias for the All of You video. That was 1 day. I did a Dwight Yoakam country. That was just a one day shoot as well in one location for our part.
And Laurie, when you say 1 day, I know with a lot of these type of shoots, it's a lot of hurry up and wait, so you're there.
Yes.
When you say 1 day, it could be 12 hours, 16 hours. Could you kind of give us what a typical day would be?
Yeah, we might have to show up, let's say 10 or 11 a.m., sometimes 9, whatever. I was thinking about the Peter Frampton video, and which I ended up getting cut out of later because Tommy Chong was supposed to be in the video as well. And I had a couple of scenes with him that made sense to my part. And he had missed a connection from New York or something, and he never showed up. So I spent all day and all night with Peter Frampton, and we shot all this stuff. And I didn't end up in it, but it was a really amazing experience. But that I think I left there at maybe 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. Something we shot on Hollywood and Vine on the street, in the Palace. The Palace used to be in LA, there on Vine Street.
Okay.
I don't think that's there anymore, but and LA Guns, all night, a couple of all-nighters on that one.
To be expected.
Yeah, Van Halen, we pretty much ended, in the evening. We had a couple of evening shots when we did the photo shoot with Neil Zlazauer, Zlaz. Yeah, we were dressed as Waldo's girls during the day for that scene. And then, they kind of took us aside and we did that photo shoot with David Lee Roth. And that's the ones that ended up in Neil's book. And, Neil was their photographer, practically lived with them for a long time, and they were good friends. So
it's interesting to note that another iconic video from the 80s was Robert Palmer's Addicted to Love. And that kind of created that template of having the artist surrounded by the all-girl band. And that was something that I noticed in connection with the Jermaine Jackson video. It seemed like it was a similar format.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that interview was, we had to go and do air guitar, They handed us a couple instruments and we had to do our little thing. So I guess I'm a natural at trombone. I didn't know that. My parents really
That's hilarious.
I was too poor to get any music lessons, but the trombone would have been in, I'm gathering, even though I like drums.
In 1988, you appeared in Rick James' Loosey's Rap music video? Okay.
Yes. Rick's a character. He liked he wanted tall girls on the set. I'm 5'11", 6 foot with even tennis shoes on, and there were girls towering me. So there was a couple of shorter girls, but not actually short, like 5'9", something like that. And we were all in high heels.
I'm sure it's difficult to compare because they're all such unique experiences, but of all of the music videos that you did appear in, does anyone stand out as being very near and dear to your heart, or the one that people seem very obsessed with when they find out about your background?
Of course, Hot for Teacher, for sure. That's near and dear to my heart because I love Van Halen as well. And I think that's an experience that over the years I've come to appreciate even more, because at the time it was fun, but I was working a lot and traveling a lot, and I'd do that and then go and do another thing and another thing. And yeah, it was fun, but now over time it's meant more and more to me that I was able to do that. But I really, really had a great time on the Sex Action music video with LA Guns. It was, talk about iconic Hollywood. We shot at the Roxy, we shot on Sunset Strip, we shot behind a building over on Hollywood and Vine, we shot downtown at one of the old big classic 40s Hollywood hotels with the big ballroom and all the red velvet. And I drove in the car some of the locations. I had a little sports car at the time, and Tracy would drive with me, and I had my mixtape cassette of Alice Cooper that I made with Pretties for You and a whole bunch of other stuff, little greatest hits of my own. And he would, he was like, you don't understand. You don't know what Alice Cooper means to me. And I'm like, me too, dude. That's my. So we like jammed Alice Cooper all the way. He was he still is a sweetheart of a person, Tracy. Is awesome.
So prior to that video shoot, being Sex Action is on their debut album, had you heard of them? I know they were a, they'd kind of come out of the Guns N' Roses faction there. Had you heard of them on the club scene, or were you traveling so much that maybe they were a new band?
I had heard of them, not really their music, but I had heard of them. My sister's a hairdresser, and back then she was doing all the rock guys' hair. So she did, Axl Rose's hair in the garage where they were staying, because they didn't want to come into the salon, or, people Faster Pussycat. And she was part of, she did the hair on a lot of the Rise of the Fall of Western Civilization video.
Decline of the Western Civilization.
Decline of Western, so she did Ozzy's hair and a whole bunch of other people, I think Dave Mustaine, right? So I remember her talking about that, the Tracy and Axl, and they had split, and it was Tracy's group, and I think so I wasn't really into their music because like you said, it was a debut, but I had heard of them, and heard of Tracy definitely from before.
And that album was released in early 1988. So again, it's at the apex of the whole LA Sunset Strip music scene with, Guns N' Roses, LA Guns, Dokken, all the rest. So you were there at its peak, which is really amazing.
And I did frequently go down and watch bands all the time. I saw Warren at the Country Club but we hung with those guys. I knew his their managers and PR people and stuff like that I'd known through some other people. And so we go to Benihana's and, got some fun pictures from that. Yeah. So I definitely went and saw everybody that I could see,
When you travel around LA or West Hollywood now, how does it compare today to what it was during the 80s? Or I don't know if you had the chance to see bands or live music there during the 70s. It must feel very different.
70s, I know I'd gone a couple of times with my brother wherever, and I was tall, so even though I was underage, I had my ID. So I'd gone and see some people that really, I can't even remember. They were just people that were popular at the time. But yeah, it's kind of hard to compare to now. Of course, I just went and saw LA Guns there. They were playing at the Whiskey, and then I saw them at the Canyon. I go and see people that I loved from the past, and some newer bands. I have a lot of friends in bands now, so go to the Viper Room or go to the Whiskey or Troubadour. My nephew's a singer, songwriter. He's, doing well. So, but it's hard to compare. It's just different, it's just a different time.
Yeah, of course. I guess the final question I have is, do you have any advice you might offer to anyone who's interested in modeling or breaking into the world of music videos? Obviously, it's a different landscape today.
Yeah,
there's different modes of self-promotion.
So different. Yeah, it's I'm got back a couple of years ago. Got another agency because I stopped and had a family, and it's quite different. They have a whole casting networks thing, and then interviews come in, and then they pick you, or the agent submits you. It used to be mostly agency submissions, and now it's basically the casting people just going through the the cases. But for me, I always just looked at it as a job and not a lifestyle. It was really professional, and I think to stay professional is important to further your career and get somewhere. And clients like to see that.
Absolutely.
They want to trust that the people they have coming in and promoting their products or whatnot are professional. I would actually say a really good idea is to take improv classes, because I would go on interviews with tons of beautiful girls for something, for a commercial. And I think what clinches it a lot is going and doing a really good job on that improv, because most of the time you have to do a little improv, pretend you're in a backyard barbecue and this person comes up to you and this happens and you have to do that and blah, 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 blah. And you have to just kind of, think quick on your feet and so I think I got a lot of things being able to do that. So that would be a big advice from me.
That's really interesting. You've been extremely generous with your time today, and I love these stories. And maybe at some point we'll do a follow-up if anything else occurs to you in terms of memories or nostalgia. Is there a way people can follow you online? Do you have any social media that you want to plug?
I just have Instagram is Tucker underscore Laurie, Laurie Tucker. Not I was Laurie Garland at the time when I was working. That's my middle name, so that's but it's Laurie Tucker on Instagram. Basically, I just put some old retro flashback stuff and some new things.
It's a great page. It's definitely worth checking out.
Thanks.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We will follow up soon with another episode. I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Laurie.
you.
Thank you.
Jane.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Darren.